Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Michael Bullock and this is part 3 of my painting a New Mexico mountain scene. This is located in my how-to video series and I hope you really enjoy it. This video was originally filmed in April of 2021 for my World of Watercolor class at San Juan College, located in Farmington, New Mexico. It was shot at my studio in Artifacts Gallery via Zoom. Just like parts 1 and 2, I didn't have the best microphone, so I had to re-record some of the dialogue. Also, some of the sound is a little funky. And you'll notice that there are some spots where I sound a bit different. If you haven't watched parts 1 or 2 yet, go back and watch them first. There will be a link in the show notes below. I tell you what, if you're ever in Farmington, New Mexico, head down and try the Studio Bake Shop in Artifacts for some great coffee and pastries. I just had a ginger snap that was incredible. And they make some great scones. If you're new to the channel, which I'm assuming most people are because I'm sort of new to YouTube, take a moment and like the video and subscribe to the channel. It will really help me out, and I want to keep bringing you fun watercolor content. If you enjoy this video, consider sharing it with anyone you think may also enjoy it. I'm going to make a quick plug here for Utrecht Art Supplies. My affiliate link is in the description below. Clicking it will take you to my curated supply list. Be sure and check that out. Some of the items like paint colors are doubled up because I recommend 2 different brands, so they're available from both. Don't feel like you need to order everything or anything for that matter. Just take a look and pick and choose things you think you may like. I also have a discount code for Mead Art, which is MBW70 for 12% off your purchase. The link for that is also below. Mead is a great site for budget-conscious artists, especially those wanting to try watercolor for the first time. They have some great deals on their brand of watercolor paints and brushes, and they feature some amazing studio furniture. So be sure to check them out as well. I really like their 140-pound watercolor paper. It's a great budget alternative to Arches. Also, don't feel that you need to order a bunch of stuff to try watercolors. If you have supplies you like or you want to use, just use them. The best supplies are the ones you already have. Now let's get started with part 3 of my how-to series, painting a New Mexico mountain scene.
I'm going to start using a little bit, just watered down a little bit of that dark that I have up there, but really watered down. And I kind of want to make this feel like maybe the bottom, something right in there. Pull that down. And, one of the things to keep in mind when painting skies is that it may not ever look exactly like you want it to, but there's a lot you can do to just kind of make it look interesting. And don't get discouraged right off the bat. I still screw up stuff, and this is 20. Well, you all know I've painted since before I could walk, but as a professional artist, I've been working since 1998, 97. So I want to bring kind of some of this down here as well. Add, kind of this kind of bottom of the cloud kind of feel. And this is that purpley gray that I mixed up. It's indigo and quinacridone violet. Just a hint of the green, but so little that all it does is really make it just kind of makes it look a little more gray. As my brush starts to dry out, I can just kind of do some of these little wispy things that look interesting. But that starts to add this kind of dark underside of the cloud. Add a little more water. So I'm just kind of pulling in this kind of under there. It makes it look bottom side of a cloud. So you can see I'm just kind of using, I'm kind of using the side of my brush somewhat. I'll start off with a fair amount of water and paint in the brush. And then as it starts to dry out, then I just start doing these little wispy things. This again is that I'm starting to get that kind of dark look that I want. In this case, this is a little lighter than I want. So I'm going to actually mix up a little more indigo with some Hooker's green. So I'll show you what I'm doing. So you can see that it looks a fair amount green now. And then what I'll do is come in with a little violet, and that makes this kind of dark, just a bit more. Just wanted a slight bit on the blue side, but with the green and the violet in there, it makes a nice neutral dark. And that looks really dark, and I want to pull that up into here because I want the impression that there's some more clouds above us. So that's what I'm trying to do here. There's more clouds, and I may even bring in. This will still be, I think, a little lighter. Maybe that's like so. There. And again, this looks like I'm maybe screwing everything up, but trust me, it's all reversible to some extent. Getting me closer to that dark kind of stormy sky that I want. Eventually I'm going to knock these whites back quite a bit more, but not yet. And I still want some of that peacock blue showing. Bring that over here and soften that whole thing. And then I'm going to take that same kind of dark neutral that I mixed, and I'm going to add a little more quinacridone violet to it. So I get that gray violet back in the spot. So that's what I'm working on right here. It was still a little violet, so I'm just pulling more and more of this green mix over there until I get that kind of gray that I want. I'm just using the side of my brush to plop in some color. It's dry, it's quite a bit more wet here. Paper's more wet here. It's definitely dry over here, which I want. I want that to be fuzzy over here. I want those colors to blend a little bit. And then as I get over here, I can start shaping this kind of shadow. I can, the fact that the paper's a little more dry over here works to my advantage. And it works to my advantage that it's a little better, more wet over there. So it's going to have fuzzier color. And the fact that there's a little bit of light peeking through down here, I like that. I want to keep that. I do want to soften this maybe just a bit over here. A little less of a sharp line. And that looks like maybe there's a little bit of green or something happening back there. It's just kind of fuzzy. Can't really tell. See, I'm going to bring in a little more of this dark up in here where it's really dark. I'm going to change the shape of this. Bring in some of that violet. It looks like there's a giant bit of white there. That's a glare. What I'm doing is trying to make this cloud, there's a little bit of a light cloud here, but it's kind of in the mid-ground here. But the foreground of the sky is this highest bit, and I'm trying to make that feel like it's over us, like this is part of that shadow, it's cast by the cloud.
Now I'm going to add a little bit of quinacridone violet mixed with indigo up here at the top for that dark violet gray.
And then as we get down in here, I want to soften this. Got a lot of weird like shapes, like geometric looking shapes that I don't want. So I can soften that with my brush. And then I have this little bit of toilet paper that I was using. I can find kind of a clean spot and pick some of that back up. So it's just a little bit fuzzier and less sharp. That's starting to come together pretty nicely. I'm going to let that dry for a second because I want to come in with a little, like high altitude rain, maybe over here, coming down from these clouds that are a little closer to us. But then I also want some coming in over here. So I have to kind of think about that. Adding just more dark down in here and kind of changing the shape of this. I am going to knock this back just a bit, but I also want to make sure I have kind of a shape that I like before I start letting it dry.
And I'm using that dark indigo violet mix.
That's kind of something there. I don't know if it's good, but it's something. I like that shape. So I'm gonna let that dry. Still damp. I did notice that I have this shape here that I just do not care for. It's just a weird thing. I don't know what that was, but didn't like it, and didn't notice it until I was drying it. But I just decided to wait until it was dry. That way I didn't screw it up even more. So I want to add a little bit. I've got this kind of yellow glow down here. I want to add a little bit of that here because I think the clouds would have some of that in there. And it could even be opera as well. So I may start out with a little opera. And I'm just going to kind of get a little bit over here on the edge. Just so it's okay, so I've got a little opera there. Let me come in with just a hint of permanent yellow deep. If you don't have permanent yellow deep, you could use like Indian yellow or azo yellow. And this looks like probably too much, but I can come back in here in a second. Pick some of that back up. So that it's just got that hint of yellow. Maybe there's a wee bit back up in here. Maybe just a bit of pink too. Maybe there's a wee bit of opera over in here. Soften that with a little water. I didn't really have a lot of water in my brush. I just had a bit of the paint. So I want to make sure that I get that softened up a bit. And then I'll come in and add just a hint of this permanent yellow deep again. Just to kind of give me a little glow in those clouds. But it pulls out that kind of red pinkish hue in this violet that has kind of a little bit of a glow effect going on there. And then I like, so that's what I did with the yellow and the opera. I'm going to switch now to my number 6, and I'm going to bring in a little rain. I feel like, yeah, that's dried enough. And if it bleeds a little bit, that's okay. That'll just add to the effect. Kind of think I want it to come back this way, so it pulls you back into here. I'm going to pick up this violet, this gray violet. It was the indigo and quinacridone violet with a touch of green, and I'm just pulling in a little more of the green. I'm going to have some rain coming in from up in here, and I'm just going to ever so lightly put in some strokes here with this brush. Can you see what I'm doing there? Right now, I'm just putting in a few. I will now clean my brush out, come in and soften some of this. in by softening it. By softening it, I'll pick up some of that paint and I can add a lighter bit of those lines. I'm going to now come in with a little peacock blue, and just down in here, these little streaks are going to be catching a little more light, so they're going to be less dark. I want to go overboard too much. Soften those up in here. Cloud. Maybe I'll pick up a little royal blue in here. Let that kind of run down into the peacock blue. It's a nice transition from the slightly darker blue into that lighter peacock blue.
I'm going to switch back to this darker blue now. It's that indigo. And then now I'm going to switch to that royal blue again. And now I'm going to switch back to the peacock blue again, just to sort of increase the size of this area of this brighter blue.
Now in a minute, once this is dry, I'm going to come back in here and lift some lighter areas out.
But right now I'm just switching back and forth between different brush strokes. I'm either using the point of my brush, or I'm using the side of my brush to make different strokes that end up looking like rain. Once we lift that darker area out, it'll add little bits of light that look like the sunlight is bouncing off of the raindrop.
Because right now it just looks like it's right there, and I want it to come up into this area as well. I think that's a little dark right there. So now I want to come over here, and I think for this, I'm just going to use, I want to put a little more rain back here and a little farther.
And this is that same dark gray violet that we created using indigo, quinacridone violet, and a touch of Hooker's green. I've just got it extremely watered down, so it's very thin and watery. And then I'm just going to come back in with that same violet gray, only less watery, so it's slightly darker.
We've just got a few little thunderstorm kind of, little breaks where where it's raining intermittently in different spots. That's kind of what I'm going for here.
Here I've switched to just a darker quinacridone violet and royal blue mix.
Just kind of coming through here, having a little fun.
And I've just noticed that I have two completely different angles to this rain. The upper one is slightly different than the bottom one. And I know that happens in real life, but it just looks weird. So I'm going to have to fix that. But this is where it comes in handy just not to panic. So I'm just going to soften what I did here, lifting back out with water.
And what I want to do actually is lift a little of this guy possible, because I want this sort of cloudburst to be somewhat between this hill and this kind of foreground mountain, or middle ground mountain. I may not have enough paint on this to soften this as much as I'd like. In fact, what I may have to do, I may have to switch to a stiffer bristle brush, just to lift a little of that. So I'll show you. Got this. This is actually one of my grandmother's old oil brushes. It's just got a little bit stiffer brush. But I'm just going to kind of use this. You could use your toothbrush. I'm just going to gently scrub this, though. Break up this line of this mountain. And I'm not even going to make it go away 100%. I'm just going to, lighten it a bit. So, So it'll still be there, just not as much. It's not as much as it was. So I'm just lightening it ever so slightly, so you can still see it's there. And I can come back in once this is dry. The angle of this ring is kind of screwed up. But the nice thing, if you're using really good paper, like Arches or Fabriano or something like that, paper can take a fair amount of abuse. And I'm going to put some rain up in here too. Sometimes I'll even take this brush, kind of spread out the bristles a little bit and pick up a little paint with it, even though it's kind of a, well, it's made for oil. And it does some nice textural stuff. But it's a nice little brush for that.
What I'm doing here is just taking this oil paintbrush with the stiffer bristles and painting in some of that quinacridone violet royal blue mix. Just using it to kind of dry brush on that. You can see that's a really interesting rain-like texture.
That I can then come back with my round brush, soften some. It just starts to add that rainy texture. Royal blue right there. Soften it back out. So like I had this dark line, which I did, just straight across the top. Break that up. Get that line there, and then again over here. Where I'm kind of doing this kind of scribbly thing, that just gives me that kind of cloud texture. So let me come back over here. Just switching between that kind of green and violet.
And as I work my way down a little lower, I can add a little peacock blue because it's a little lighter, perhaps, not quite as much shadow from the clouds. So we've got a little more light striking these raindrops.
Come in with a little of my permanent yellow heat, add a little bit of color variation in there. Maybe instead of that, maybe I want to use a little scarlet blue. Some days I get it, some days I don't like the scarlet blue color. It is stuck with my original thought, which was go to the opera. I got distracted by Scarlet Lady. And the fact that this is more than just little strippy, little stripes is fine because it gives that kind of haze. I've got that stripe texture below it. I like the opera better than the Scarlet Lady. But the fact that it's a little blurry just adds to that sort of cloudburst kind of thing going on. So there's a good, nice cloudburst coming in off of this.
And now I'm going to darken this up a little bit and soften it with a little of that quinacridone violet royal blue mix just to make a darker violet.
And of course, that's way too dark now. So at the top, it's too dark. So I want to add water to kind of blend that out. That gives us that kind of good cloudburst coming off of that. Let's go into some of this stuff here. We're just adding more little shadows to the underside. Of our cloud here. And for that, what I did was I took that violet mix that I had here and that green indigo mix that I had here, and I kind of pushed them together, and I got this kind of nice dark gray, almost a Payne's gray. So if you have Payne's gray, you could use that. Nothing wrong with that. Basically, what I'm working on now is kind of flattening out the bottom of this cloud. I'm going to come back. Don't think I've forgotten this. I'm going to come back and deal with that. I'm just kind of widening this cloud and flattening out the bottom. And then let's come in water and soften that. What I do, I think of what I want to do is come in with a little opera back up in here as well, just to add a little bit of that color. I already have that kind of gold. I may want to pull some more of that gold this way too, feeling like it's just kind of a blob right there. Just want to add a little more of that opera in there. Darker little streaks of rain. Just a bit darker things, streaks of rain in there. And then I'll probably, I'm going to bring a little opera into that as well, a little bit here and there. I'll soften some of that and really knock that back a bit because right now it's a little jarring. Soften it so that I lighten it as well. That starts to kind of look like fuzzy the sky gets when you see a outburst over in the distance. Soften that and fuzz that out a bit more. I feel like it needs to come over this way more too. This over into here. Okay, so let me dry that, and then I'm going to lift out a few little spots, and then let's bring in a little peacock blue over here. Soften this upper part. Some of this kind of fuzz out. It's a bit fuzzier. See kind of what I've done. Really not that complicated, but I feel like maybe that helped a little, adding that little bit of peacock blue. I might come over here and add, this is kind of weird over here, add a little more of this kind of dark violet mix. I think what I'm going to do is just soften that. Like, oh, there's some rain over there in the distance. And I think that this needs a little bit of that. I'm going to come in and try a little opera. Really, I think what's bothering me is I've got this dark here. I think it needs this line here. I think I need to lose some of that from this closer cloud burst. Got that. Let me try to lift some of that back. And then what I'll do is come back in. That's still kind of damp, so this should bleed a little bit, which I kind of want. Come back in and really soften this. I want to come over here and maybe get a little, I don't know if I have enough. These streaks may be too big. I'll have to come back in and add a little paint to them, or they may not show up at all. Quite tell. It's a little hard to see. I'm gonna go make another go at that. Got one that's kind of right there. And again, if I don't like the shape of this, I can just go back over it with. I can just go back over it with color. Yeah, you can see I've lifted it out there. Obviously, those are too big and not random enough, so I need a couple more smaller ones. And then I'll come back in and make those smaller too. And then what I can do is just like, when we're doing like ruts in a road or whatever, or things in we're lifting stuff out in a barn, sometimes we get these lines that are too wide and we have to kind of just thin them down, come back in, we break them up, turn them into multiple lines. And don't be afraid to try to experiment. So now I have those lighter, it's a little hard to see. Let me zoom back in. And you can see where I've lifted some of those out. I can even come back in where it's lighter down in here and kind of create another. I can add this. Soften that. Yeah, that's not too terrible. I'll tell you what I don't like. It's this little light spot that I put there. So I'm just going to cover it up. It was too close to the edge of the paper. Starts giving a little fuzz, rain haze kind of going over here just by side of my brush and then a few little well placed strokes with the point of the brush. I don't know if this sky is working out the way I like it. What I've got here is somehow ended up with I've got this little arch going across there. So I need to get rid of a couple of these and change the height of some of them. Somehow and this is just the way we try to be random, but we're not really good. Always come up with some sort of thing. So, I mean, I had this thing that was going just like that, and it was. I may just leave that and not worry about that too much. I think I'm just going to live with it for a little bit, but you can start to see that I'm getting that. I'm starting to get that kind of dark feel up here, and I've got that sun coming in here. What I may want to do is actually hit this with just a bit of that permanent yellow deep, just to give it a little bit more glow. Maybe I want to add just a hint of it, some of this. So maybe there's just a bit of this that's getting lit up. That maybe just a bit too much. Some of this would be getting that low that we're going for. I'm just adding a little bit of this on top of our light so it gives it that yellow gold kind of glow.
I think I need some hints of shadows back up in the kind of mid-ground here, so I'm just going to go along and add some with that dark quinacridone violet royal blue mix.
And add a few little shadows coming off of stuff back in here. But it just kind of adds to that. Now, this painting, I would probably, before I said this was done, I would probably live with it for a while and see what else I need to do. I definitely wouldn't mind spritzing a little water and adding a little texture down in here, or using, doing the scribbly, where, like, if this is my paper, where I just kind of do this kind of thing. In this case, I'm going to use my spritz bottle, but if you don't have one, don't, you can use your toothbrush. And I'm just going to add a little texture back into this. And I may even do a little scribbly thing with the brush. Pick that up. Yeah, that starts to add a little texture in there. Let me do a little bit of brush. So I'm just holding the brush straight up, making these kind of fake calligraphy kind of marks. So I've made this really big mush thing there, but that gives me an opportunity to come back in with some of that dark and make something out of it. So I can just kind of come in and break that shape up. That now is kind of a more interesting shape than it was.
Just by adding a little dark back into these shapes in the foreground.
Maybe I want a little more of that kind of going on over here, like that. Now I'm just adding texture by just doing little random bits of stuff down in here. I got a little spritz of water there. If you don't have a spray bottle, use your toothbrush. You can, do this kind of thing with it, or hit it against your finger like this. Doing this gets you a little bit finer size spray pattern. Hitting it against your finger, tapping it against your finger like that gives you a bigger dot pattern, kind of like this. But that's all ways of making these kind of interesting light and dark shapes. I kind of feel like maybe you need a little bit of a lighter area here, like maybe just a bit of light is hitting the bottom part of this mountain here. So I just painted a little water on there. That's all that is. I'll let it set for a second, and then I'll wipe it up. I got a nice light, but that's a bit too much. So now I want to come in and just bring that down, back down just a skosh. Once this dries, it'll be quite a bit lighter than it was. And that just gives me a little texture, a little more interest on the side of that mountain. I think that's coming together nicely. And I think, I will probably come in with that fine mist blue around the edge here and see if I can't. In fact, let's go ahead. Let me try this real quick. Just that added a nice little lighter texture right there. Broke that big dark shape up quite a bit without doing too much. Let me zoom in on that for you real quick. Yeah, you can see that a little bit better. So I'm just gonna and we'll see. That'll help over there. That kind of darkens that up a bit. I really start to get that. So I really start to get that feel like there's this light coming in low, hitting right in here. That starts to pull your eye. Let me just. That starts to really pull your eye in here that way. And that's just that regular spray bottle with the cobalt blue. See how that really starts to feel like I got that light coming in real low. Even though I spritzed over some of this, I still have the texture in here. You can see. You zoom in on that. You can still see the texture in there, but it's a little more muted along here. So it's there, and it's interesting, but it's not so interesting that it's pulling my eye. Really, what I'm doing is I'm coming along here, and then I'm hitting this stuff, and I'm coming up there. Oh, one last thing I do need is that I want to add that fence wire. I'm just going to come in with that dark green, blue, purple that kind of makes a dark gray black, and we'll just kind of got a little wire going across there. That was really wrap it around this post a few times, around that one a few times. Maybe I've got a little piece of wire coming off here. Another little piece right there. Wrapped around a couple times. This fence builder wasn't very good. I haven't been back to fix this fence in a long time, but that makes it more interesting. So there, I've got that little bit of wire just to help sell that idea of that being a fence, and I think we're pretty happy with that. I may put, I made this a little darker. I may make this just a bit darker here. Just fit that a little bit more. Now you can see I got some little blobs blue over here, but if I'm quick, I close up with Kleenex. Even this one that's a little big right there. That up. You want a bit more that post. So it's not light coming up to the post and then dark on the other side. But now it's got it, it kind of fades into that dark, and I'm happy with it. Yeah. So there we go. I don't think that turned out too shabby. Let me just dry this real quick so there's not a glare on it. I was having so much fun painting, time just kind of flew by.
Wow, it's hard to believe that took 3 videos. This was a long one, I know, but I hope you enjoyed painting along with me as much as I did. I had so much fun with this. When I painted it, I forgot what time it was, and my class ran over. If you made it this far and like what I'm doing, click that subscribe button and ring that little bell to get notified of my next video. It's completely free and it really helps me out. Also, click the like button and share the video with anyone you think would also like it. Leave a comment and let me know what you think of my videos. And as always, if you have a question or comment, please leave that below as well. I would love to hear from you. Also, check out some of my other videos. So with that, I'll say goodbye. I'll see you all in the next video. And remember, life is too short to paint on cheap paper.